China spent $300 million to save 2 hours of the Chinese people. That's not a typo, and by the time this is over, you'll understand exactly why they did it.
Before it took an hour, now it only takes 2 minutes.
In the skies of Guizhou province, the Huajiang Canyon Bridge took 3 years to build and 22,000 tons of cement.
Imagine standing at the bottom of a canyon so deep that you have to tilt your head all the way back just to see the top. And up there, tiny as a toy, you can see cars driving through clouds. This is the Huajiang Grand Canyon Bridge. It cost $300 million to build, and to build it, China had to cut an entire mountain in half. And none of this was actually about the bridge at all. This is the story of the highest bridge on the planet, and by the end of this video, you will come to know why China spent a crazy amount of money on a project so insane. Let's start from the beginning. Guizhou Province, in southwest China, is one of the most beautiful places on Earth. Green mountains, deep canyons, rushing rivers. Tourists call it the Switzerland of China. But the people who live there have a saying that's been passed down for hundreds of years. No 3 feet of level ground. They're not being dramatic. Over 90% of Guizhou is covered in mountains and hills. There are no flat roads, no easy paths, just endless walls of rock and limestone. The limestone is a big part of the problem. This type of rock, called karst, shaped Guizhou into something that looks stunning from a helicopter but is almost impossible to live in. It carves itself into sharp ridges and deep canyons over millions of years, too jagged for easy roads, too broken for heavy bridges, and for the people of Guizhou, it meant something very simple. They were trapped. Think about this. 2 towns, 1 kilometer apart. You can literally see the other town from your window, but to get there, you drive for 2 hours, around mountains, down cliffs, back up again. That 1 kilometer gap created a 200-year economic delay. Farmers watched their crops go bad because they couldn't get to the market in time. Students couldn't reach better schools. Families were separated. Jobs that existed just a few kilometers away might as well have been on another planet.
This is the world's tallest bridge, and yes, it's in China. Welcome to the Huajiang Grand Canyon Bridge in Guizhou Province, soaring 625 meters above the river. To give you perspective, that's almost 9 times taller than the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. It took 3 years to build, and what's amazing is that this bridge has turned what used to be a 2-hour journey across the canyon into just 2 minutes. Imagine that, 2 hours cut down.
Liang Xiaoyu is a villager who was born in 1,953 inches, a small community called Xiaohuajiang. He remembers exactly what that isolation felt like. To reach the market, villagers woke up at 3 inches the morning, slaughtered pigs, loaded everything onto their shoulders, and climbed mountains for 3 to 4 hours. The river crossing was done by bamboo raft. When floods came, even that was gone. He grew up, served in the military, saw other parts of China, came back, and in 1983 stood up at a village meeting and said, "We need to develop tourism." People laughed at him. The idea seemed like a fantasy. The mountains wouldn't allow it. The Chinese government looked at Guizhou and decided enough was enough. The plan was massive. Build over 32,000 bridges across the entire province. Not small footbridges over streams, real bridges. Massive structures that would let people travel in straight lines instead of spiraling around mountains for hours. But to connect everything, they needed a highway. And that highway had a problem. There was a mountain in the way. Not a small hill. A full, solid mountain. Going around it would have added dozens of extra kilometers and hours of travel. Going under it with a tunnel was considered. But the karst limestone underneath made that dangerous. So engineers made a decision that sounds almost unbelievable. They went through it. They brought in explosives and massive drills. They carved a V-shaped cut right through the center of solid rock. They split the mountain in half. The blasts shook nearby villages. The amount of rock removed could fill thousands of Olympic swimming pools. But they did it with precise engineering. making sure the walls left standing were completely stable and safe. Mountains take millions of years to form. This one was cut open in months. The highway now runs in a straight line through the gap where the mountain used to be whole. But the highway was just the beginning, because at the end of it, they reached the edge of Huajiang Canyon. And standing there, looking across, and then looking down 625 meters to the river far below, they faced a completely different problem. 625 meters. Take 2 Eiffel Towers and stack them on top of each other. That's roughly how far down the canyon floor is from where the bridge deck sits. The bridge is so high that clouds float underneath the road. At that height, nothing about building feels normal. The bridge needed 22,000 tons of steel. That's 3 times the weight of the Eiffel Tower, hanging in the air over a canyon, held up by cables. Every single piece of that steel had to be lifted up and placed with perfect accuracy, hundreds of meters above a rocky canyon floor. The world's largest crane, Big Carl, stands 250 meters tall. You would need to stack 3 of them to reach the top of this canyon, so cranes weren't the answer. Instead, engineers stretched thick steel cables across the entire canyon, from one wall to the other. These cables became an overhead runway in the sky. Steel pieces were attached to trolleys that rode along these cables, carrying tons of material across the open air to exactly where they needed to go. Each steel segment weighed 215 tons. The bridge was built from the center outward, both sides at the same time, to keep the weight balanced. And every single piece had to land in exactly the right spot. For that, they used China's own satellite navigation system called Beidou. It worked like GPS but with higher precision, guiding workers to position each massive steel section within millimeters of where it needed to be. But even with all of that, the biggest enemy wasn't the weight, it was the wind. Wind in a canyon doesn't behave like normal wind. When air gets pushed through a narrow gap, it speeds up. Engineers call this the Venturi effect. At 600 meters above the ground, with canyon walls squeezing the air through, wind gusts were recorded at speeds equal to an express train hitting the side of the bridge. During construction, work had to completely stop if winds exceeded level 6 on the wind scale. Instant gusts could hit level 14, the same strength as a powerful typhoon. Hoisting technician Tian Hongrui, who spent over 5 years on this project starting from the survey phase in 2020, described what working in those conditions felt like. He said that every operation in the wind and fog felt like walking a tightrope. The canyon was often covered in thick fog at night. When the team had to work because lower temperatures were needed for precise installation, visibility was nearly zero, weight was extreme, wind was constant. To handle this, engineers tested scale models in wind tunnels. They also used a technology called Doppler LiDAR, which shoots laser beams into the air and measures how they bounce off tiny water particles. As those particles move with the wind, the system builds a real-time 3D map of exactly how the wind is moving inside the canyon. This told engineers not just how strong the wind was, but where it was coming from, at what angle, and how it changed by the hour. Wind deflectors and stabilizing plates were added to the structure to turn that destructive force into something the bridge could absorb. And once built, the bridge needed to keep watching itself. Nearly 40,000 individual steel wires make up each of the 2 main cables holding the bridge up. Each wire is just 5.7 millimeters wide. If you laid all of those wires end to end, they would wrap around the entire Earth twice. Those cables had to be stronger than anything previously used in bridge building. Engineers developed steel wires with a strength of 2,000 megapascals, which is 7.5% stronger than international standards required. They also developed a special coating to protect the cables from the constant humidity inside the canyon, boosting corrosion resistance by 2.5 times.
3360吨，也就是模拟在极端荷载作用下，来激活我的这个桥梁结构最大的一个正常使用的一个承载能力。今天我们主要是关注两岸主塔的一个偏位，还有主塔根部弯距以及铆跨锁骨的最大张力。
And inside those cables, engineers from Beijing Jiaotong University helped install fiber optic sensors, thin threads of glass that carry light. When the cable stretches under weight, the fiber stretches too, and by measuring how the light changes, engineers can see the exact stress on every cable in real time, 24 hours a day. An intelligent control center shows all of this data on a big screen. temperature, humidity, stress levels, all monitored from dozens of kilometers away. Chief Engineer Liu Hao, who has built 3 world-class bridges in his career, described the goal simply. He said they wanted to integrate emerging high-tech solutions with civil engineering. The result earned 21 patents and set new national standards for bridge construction. Now here's where the story gets interesting. Because this bridge was never just about getting people across a canyon faster. From the very beginning, it was planned as something bigger. China's Belt and Road Initiative is a global strategy to build economic connections across dozens of countries. Part of that strategy is showing the world what Chinese engineering can do. And Huajiang Bridge is one of the loudest demonstrations of that capability imaginable. You split a mountain, hang a bridge taller than 2 Eiffel Towers, build it in 3.5 years, and suddenly the world is paying attention.
Floating roads like these are dotted around the province. These technological innovations are emissaries of Chinese prestige. On the Yangtze River, this brand new cable-stayed bridge is 10 kilometers long, making it the longest bridge in the country. In the region of Changjiang, another huge project is about to come to light. In only a few months, a motorway will cross this entire estuary.
The Huajiang Grand Canyon Bridge also had a very specific local strategy built into its design. Cultural and tourism expert Zhang Xiaosong, who was involved in designing the tourism plan for the bridge, said that from the very start, it was planned as a tourism and sports complex, not just a road. The design included a glass elevator rising 207 meters up the side of a bridge tower, delivering visitors to a coffee shop nearly 800 meters above the river. There's a glass walkway below the car deck where you look straight down 625 meters to the canyon floor. There's a bungee jumping platform, a 1,411-meter aerial racing track, high-altitude swings, rock climbing anchored to the canyon walls. Zhang noted that turning world-class infrastructure directly into tourist attractions avoids the massive upfront cost of building traditional tourism sites. The bridge earns its return on investment twice. Once as a road, again as a destination. And it worked beyond anyone's expectations. Since opening in September 2025, the bridge has welcomed over 1.3 million visitors. During just one Spring Festival holiday in February 2026, 300,000 people visited. In 2025 alone, the city of Anshun on one side of the bridge recorded 66 million tourist visits, a 13% increase from the year before. The mountain prison became the destination. But numbers don't tell the full story, people do. Back in Shaohuajiang village, things look completely different now. Lin Guoquan, 34 years old, left and came back. He opened a homestay. All 40 of his rooms are fully booked. His former classmate Li Hanhan volunteers there after running her own milk tea shop called High Bridge Tea Talk. A couple from Zhejiang province is turning an old house into a guest house. Young people are gathering at the village entrance in the evenings, playing traditional instruments around bonfires, live streaming the bridge's light show to friends who still work in other cities. One comment on a live stream said, "I'll come back during the National Day holidays to see how beautiful our hometown has become." Liang Xiaoyu, the same man who was laughed at in 1983 for suggesting tourism, now stands on his balcony and watches the bridge every morning. He said, "I have walked on muddy roads and stone paths, crossed iron chain bridges, and finally witnessed the birth of a world-class marvel." For the youth of Shaohuajiang, a broad avenue awaits, leading their hometown toward prosperity and into the future. They didn't just move dirt, they moved a province into the 21st century. Liu Hao, the chief engineer, said something that sticks. He said, "A bridge is mathematics, physics, and mechanics, but also philosophy, poetry, and distant horizons. A bridge is just steel and cables until it connects a forgotten people to the world, then it becomes something else entirely." So here's the question worth sitting with. Is what China built here a masterpiece of human will, or an expensive ego project dressed up in engineering? Drop your answer in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel.